The countdown is on to the first GOP presidential debate. We'll take a look at who'll be on the stage and who'll be missing and not in attendance. Plus, the Utah mom accused of lethally poisoning her husband and then writing a children's book about dealing with grief back in court. Or will she face the death penalty? And the amount of money most workers now want to accept a job has reached a record high. That number and more coming up on News Nation Now. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. I'm Nick Smith. We begin with Decision Desk 24. The first GOP presidential debate takes place tomorrow, and front-runner former President Donald Trump will not be participating. Instead, he will be giving an interview to former Fox host Tucker Carlson. The decision seems to have put him at odds with Fox News Network, who is hosting the debate. Now, according to a network memo obtained by Axios, Mr. Trump's senior aides will not be able to enter Fox's so-called spin room, where campaigns make a case for their candidates. Still, Mr. Trump has a significant lead over his competitors. According to Real Clear Politics, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is in a distant second with only 14%. Joining us now is News Nation Chief Washington anchor and host of On Balance with Leland Vittert. Leland Vittert joining me now. Leland, good afternoon. Could Fox News, leaning away from Mr. Trump, spell trouble for him, or do you think it won't have any effect whatsoever?
Well, history is the best predictor that we have of future events, Nick. And at least over the past 6 or 12 months, we've done a number of stories about Fox News and the other Rupert Murdoch properties, the New York Post and the Wall Street Journal, moving away from Donald Trump on a whole host of different data points. And so far, at least, it has not hurt Donald Trump with Republican voters. And it'd be fair to point out that Fox News probably isn't one homogeneous group. There's a lot of hosts with a variety of different viewpoints there, both before and after Tucker Carlson's departure. So at least so far, that has not hurt Donald Trump.
Leland, how important, you talked about history being a predictor, how important are poll numbers? Are we making too much out of DeSantis being in the teens, or is this a predictor of a campaign that you feel may be on the decline?
Well, we always make way too much out of poll numbers, right? I'm old enough to remember President Hillary Clinton because she was way ahead in Iowa at one point as well. I'm old enough to remember President Jeb Bush, who was way ahead in national polls as well. So who knows? This is why we play the game. This is why we go through all of these things. And then in the end, the voters decide. What I would say, you asked specifically about Ron DeSantis, and probably tonight, Ron DeSantis has the most to lose because this is his opportunity to stop the bleeding. Ron DeSantis has been exposed to voters, especially in Iowa and New Hampshire, with an awful lot of advertising, with an awful lot of visits. His super PAC is spending a huge amount of money to introduce him to voters, and his poll numbers are going down, not up. So tomorrow night is his opportunity to make his case of why voters have gotten it wrong and why people see him wrong in trying to turn around public opinion, trying to make a second first impression. Is probably the most difficult thing in politics to do.
Leland, let's talk about tomorrow's debate before you get out of here. Other GOP candidates won't get a chance to go head-to-head with Mr. Trump to try and sway voters away from him. What do you think they'll have to do instead to gain supporters? You know, Governor Christie has been very clear, throwing up the hands and going like a street fighter at him in an interview that he gives. But tomorrow will be the difference maker, won't it?
Well, let's sort of start with the premise of the question. There's an awful lot of issues that voters care about, at least when I spend time out in Iowa, when I go through the Midwest and spend time with voters there. They don't care about Donald Trump. They care about their own pocketbooks. They care about national security. They care about the border. They care about the culture war issues. You could make the point that there's been a lot of Republicans who've been very successful over the past couple of years. Glenn Youngkin in Virginia, Brian Kemp, of course, in Georgia, and others who have run very successful Republican campaigns against Trump-backed candidates and won by focusing on the issues that voters care about, not on what so much of the media likes to talk about, which is the latest iteration of Trump news.
Oh, Leland, I know that one of the things that many people continue to talk about, even right now, is the situation at the border. How central do you believe that topic will be to tomorrow's debate?
Not really much, because there's not a whole lot of disagreement among the Republicans on that stage. They all know where the base of the Republican Party is, and frankly, where the base of the American electorate is. The majority of Americans view the border as a problem. How big of a problem and exactly what to do about it, they disagree with. But the concept of an open southern border is one that is unpopular with Americans. It's very unpopular with Republicans. We just saw yesterday a number of Republican governors, including Doug Burgum, there may have been a couple of others down there on the border with Greg Abbott, talking about this very issue. So in debates, you want to try to elicit and understand what differentiates the candidates. How are they going to deal with things differently? And when it comes to the border, sure, you have Vivek Ramaswamy sort of at one extreme, perhaps with using the U.S. military. You have others with different ideas, but the general concept's pretty much the same.
Speaking of Vivek, before I let you go, Leland, well, quick question here. You're reading the same things we are, and this last report talks about how Fox News is shifting their support, or appears to be, towards Vivek. Do you see that happening, and what could that mean as far as an increase to his popularity?
Again, Fox News, Rupert Murdoch's properties, New York Post, Wall Street Journal, has shifted away from Donald Trump. That's been going on for a long time. There was a time that there was a feeling they were behind Ron DeSantis pretty significantly. That didn't really work for Ron DeSantis. One could argue whether Rupert Murdoch is sort of the puppeteer pulling the strings and deciding which way the Republican electorate is going, or whether he's simply a very, very good understanding of where the Republican electorate is and riding each wave. In where that goes, and then giving his audiences and highlighting for his audiences what they want. In the end, he is a businessman, and he's made billions upon billions of dollars by understanding where the Republican electorate was, whether it was during 1996 when he started Fox News and covered the Clinton impeachment scandal and covered Monica Lewinsky in this very aggressive way, how he covered and how those properties covered the Iraq War, the War on Terror, 9/11, how they covered President Obama, how they covered President Trump, might say more than him sort of leading his viewers in one direction.
Leland Vittert, host of On Balance, and you wonder why we love the show. Cool, sober analysis, quick recall. You had me there, President Jeb Bush and President Hillary Clinton. I almost laughed out loud. Leland, thank you so much, sir.
All right, we'll see you soon.
All right, an abrupt shakeup in the Austin Police Department. The police chief announcing his retirement after a rocky 2 years on the job. Joseph Chacon has been on the force for 25 years. The city of Austin has faced massive staffing shortages within the police department and emergency service. News Nation's Ryan Bass joins us live. Ryan, this announcement was abrupt. No one saw it coming.
No, and it shouldn't have come as a surprise either, Nick, that Chief Chacon decided to step aside here. I mean, as you mentioned, it has been a tumultuous 2-year run for him at the helm of the department. He is a 25-year vet of the Austin Police Department, but has dealt with some of what you talked about, staffing shortages. There's been budget cuts in the past as well, and squabbles with the city council and the mayor. Here was the announcement that he made yesterday morning, posting that he has decided to step aside and retire. He said that it was certainly going to be with a heavy heart that he was going to leave his post next month. He served as the chief the last 2 years, again, while the department, the city, and the nation has been through a pretty turbulent time when it comes to policing, and had quite the parting message for his force as well.
They deserve our love, our admiration, our grace, and our respect for this incredibly difficult job that no one else wants to do.
That is felt all across the nation as well. And Chief Chacon took over following the social justice protests of May 2020, where 19 Austin Police Department officers were indicted on charges of aggravated assault following a protest that got out of hand. The city council also slashed about $150 million from the department's budget in 2020, which ended up being restored a year later. But the damage had already been done because officers had departed the force in droves. 911 call center wait times, they have been an issue, as well as poor workplace surveys that question the department's leadership, which was uncovered during investigation by our Austin affiliate. And then there's the discussion of rising crime rates and the concern within the city. Since 2020, Austin has seen a spike in murder rates and aggravated assault, both up 20%, and an even bigger increase in auto theft. That is all according to internal department data. So who steps in now to replace Chief Chacon? Well, it's actually going to be his chief of staff while he slides to an advisory role and then later does step aside to retire. There will be a national search, by the way, Nick, to find a permanent replacement to hopefully step in here and really solidify what has been a really tumultuous run over the last few years.
Yeah, Ryan, you know, that begs the question, what will this do to morale? And do we have any idea how many officers have left the Austin Police Department?
As I mentioned, morale has already been low, according to that internal staff survey. Only 20% had really felt that they were really motivated or that there was really a strong leadership development in that police department. Now, according to Save Austin, now the department has lost an average of 15 officers per month over the last 3 years, which certainly goes to show you how many they have really lost. They said they're only graduating at about 50 officers a year. The group says they need to hire about 400 more, Nick, over the next 18 to 24 months to not only improve retention, but also improve recruitment as well.
Ryan Bass reporting for us live this afternoon. Ryan, thank you so much. In the past year, the U.S. has avoided potentially crippling strikes by UPS drivers and railroad workers. Now, with Hollywood actors and writers still on the picket lines, we could be on the verge of a strike by nearly 150,000 auto workers. Chief Washington correspondent Blake Berman is live at the White House. Blake, this is not a situation anyone wants to see, but I have to ask you, has the administration been involved in trying to calm the waters?
Well, Gene Sperling is a right hand to the president. He's an economic advisor, one of the biggest economic minds in the Democratic Party. He is the one who is essentially running point here for the White House on this front, Nick. And the president himself has linked himself directly to these negotiations as he put out a statement earlier this month in which he called for what he views as a fair agreement between the UAW and the big three automakers, which of course is Ford, GM, and Stellantis, which is Fiat Chrysler. Here's what the president said a fair agreement would look like. He says transitioning the major automakers to a clean energy future while helping workers through that transition. He said union workers should also have the right to organize, while the automakers should try to avoid plant closures in the future. Now, the White House was asked at the time a couple of weeks ago, it was 10 days or so ago, why the president felt the need to weigh in a month before the potential September 14th strike deadline. And the press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, at the time said the president was simply expressing that he believes collective bargaining works.
And we saw how that worked well, right, with the Teamsters and UPS. They were able to come to the table and come to a mutual beneficial agreement of both sides. We saw that with the West Coast ports. We've seen this many times before play out, and that's what the president wants to see.
As it relates to the UAW, they are calling for better benefits, better protections for workers if plants were to close, and raises in the area of 40%. The head of the union cited the need to keep up with inflation and more in a UAW video that was posted to YouTube.
Our members are working 60, 70, even 80 hours a week just to make ends meet. That's not a living, that's barely surviving, and it needs to stop.
Now, UAW members, Nick, are voting on whether or not a strike can be authorized. If it gets to the point on September 14th where there is a strike, and that is an if, but if it were to get there, according to one estimate, a 10-day strike would lead to a $5 billion economic loss.
Wow. Blake Berman, live for us at the White House. Thank you so much, sir. Here are some more top stories we're following this afternoon. The House Freedom Caucus says it won't support a short-term spending bill without major concessions. They've unveiled a list of demands that have no chance of being included in the bill. Government funding is due to expire on September 30th. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy will likely need votes from Democrats to pass a short-term funding measure and can also get through the Senate. And former President Trump attorney John Eastman turned himself in today at the Fulton County Jail in Atlanta. He's one of the former president's 18 co-defendants in the 2020 election interference case. Mr. Eastman came up with the plan for then Vice President Mike Pence to block the certification of electoral votes. He said he has his legal team and they will vigorously contest every count of this indictment. And state officials in Montana have asked a judge to allow a TikTok ban to go into effect while the legal challenge is still being decided. TikTok is owned by the Chinese company ByteDance, which is suing Montana over the ban. Now, Montana, the first state to ban the app on personal devices, app stores would be fined $10,000 a day. The penalties wouldn't apply to individual users. A Florida tourism board appointed by Governor Ron DeSantis wants to strip Disney World employees of free passes and discounts. They argue the perks are unethical and paid for with taxpayer dollars. Now, a fight between DeSantis and Disney began last year after the company publicly opposed a state law banning teachers from discussing sexual orientation or gender identity in class.
Women's 100 World Final. The Jamaicans get out well. It's Sharika Jackson, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, Talou. Here comes Sha'Carri Richardson. Sha'Carri's done it.
That was Sha'Carri Richardson. I have to tell you, the girl can run. That woman is no joke. That was her at the bottom of your screen, winning the women's 100-meter world title in Budapest, Hungary. Her time of 10.65 seconds is a personal best. Richardson is the first American 2017 to win the event. Now, it comes 2 years after she failed a drug test at the Tokyo Olympic Games. Clearly, she is on the rise, making a comeback. Well, still ahead, now that the president has left Hawaii, what's next in the massive cleanup operation that will take years to complete? Plus, will she or won't she? A look at whether or not the mom accused of lacing her husband's Moscow Mule with fentanyl will face the death penalty. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
You're watching News Nation, news for all America.
I have moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. Thanks to Skyrizi, I'm on my way with clearer skin. 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, had a vaccine, or plan to.
Nothing on my skin means everything. Ask your dermatologist about Skyrizi. Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
Upon approaching the 18th green, Issa Tanaka silently proclaimed, "My brother may think he's a better golfer, a more witty conversationalist. He may think he's superior, but he's not. Because I switched to Consumer Cellular for the same coverage for up to half the cost. He may have mom's dimples, but I pay less for wireless."
I'm the one who wins.
Birds, when freedom calls, we're here to answer.
I'm Jonathan Lawson, here to tell you about life insurance through the Colonial Penn program. If you're age 50 to 85 and looking to buy life insurance on a fixed budget, remember the 3 Ps.
The 3 what?
The 3 Ps.
What are the 3 Ps?
The 3 Ps of life insurance on a fixed budget are price, price, and price. A price you can afford, a price that can't increase, and a price that fits your budget.
I'm 54 and was a smoker, but quit. What's my price?
You can get coverage for $9.95 a month.
I'm 65, retired, and take medications. What's my price?
Also $9.95 a month.
I just turned 80 and I'm on a fixed income. What's my price?
$9.95 a month for you too. If you're age 50 to 85, call now about the #1 most popular whole life insurance plan available through the Colonial Penn program. It has an affordable rate starting at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. You cannot be turned down because of your health. No medical exam, no health questions. Your acceptance is guaranteed. And this plan has a guaranteed lifetime rate lock, so your rate can never go up for any reason. Options start at $9.95 a month. Plus, you get a 30-day money-back guarantee. So call now for free information, and you'll also get this free beneficiary planner. Use this valuable guide to record your important information and give helpful direction to your loved ones with your final wishes. And it's yours free, just for calling. So call now for free information.
Call 1-800-341-4500 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-341-4500. 1-800-341-4500. That's 1-800-341-4500. So call now.
For over 25 years, Lovesac has been rewriting the rules of comfort. It's okay to change your style. Get messy. Get immersed. With Lovesac, you make the rules.
Welcome back. Turning now to Hawaii, where just 13 victims of the wildfires have been identified and their families notified. Another 22 have been identified, but their families have not either been told or can't be located. Joining me now is Hawaii State Representative and House Minority Leader Lauren Matsumoto. Ms. Matsumoto, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I know this is a difficult time for not only you, but everyone in the state. You've been very critical of President Biden and the federal response to the disaster. After hearing what the president had to say during his visit to the island yesterday, was he able to ameliorate any of those concerns, or do you still have the same issues?
I was happy to finally see President Biden come to Hawaii just to see the destruction firsthand. A lot of the frustration from the people in Hawaii have been the time. It's been 2 weeks already, but also the amount of funding that has been given. It's only $700 per family. But I think one of my main messages right now is that we need to work together with our local, our state, and our federal governments and really just focus on the people in Maui and helping the residents there, because now is really not the time for the blame game. We need to just really focus on helping the families in Maui.
And we've also heard that it's important that the citizens of Hawaii are the ones who take the lead. Explain that for us.
Especially when you're dealing with a place like Hawaii, a lot of the cultural issues are really important, and making sure that as the federal aid comes in, that we're really rebuilding Hawaii in the way that the residents and the people of Hawaii feel that is best to move forward. And so I think that's something that really needs to be at the forefront as we move with this recovery process.
How is the state legislature right now helping the survivors?
So in many different ways, as soon as the story came out and we've heard what happened in Maui, the Senate from the Maui representatives from the Senate put together a drive for donations, and it was truly remarkable. I mean, if we're talking about the aloha spirit, that's where we truly saw it. There was a line 30 minutes to an hour long for days to bring donations to the Capitol. I was just there yesterday, 2 weeks later, and there are still donations coming in. And so that was the first thing. But from the Republican caucus, we've reached out to the House Speaker. Now is not a time to have politics come into play. And so the House Speaker and I have been working together on how we're going to move forward, whether that is a special session in order to put together an investigative committee to see what's happened, to see if there's any more that we can do for the relief efforts. And so now it's really a time for that collaboration to help the people in Maui.
And I, like so many others, Ms. Matsumoto, have been on social media looking at different people talking about the things that are needed, everything from solar-powered generators to, I heard Oprah talk about Hanes donating underwear. But it's also been clear from everyone that I've been following that the Hawaii Tourism Authority says tourists should not come to the island until they're able to finish their cleanup or recovery efforts. And businesses on the island say that their livelihood depends on tourism. Where is the line there, and what do you want people here, like myself, to know?
I think one of the things that is important to note is that we are islands. And so a lot of people are canceling their trips to Oahu, for example. And so we're seeing a decline in our economy, and that's going to be hurting us in our recovery efforts. But if you are traveling to Maui, making sure that you are staying in the areas that are not affected by the wildfires. We do not want anybody going near Lahaina, but that's not to say that people cannot go to Wailea or Wailuku for their vacation. So it's a really fine line, because we can't have our economy tank, but understanding the grief and the sorrow that people are going through in Maui, and that needs to be respected as well.
Support with sensitivity.
Absolutely.
Hawaii House Minority Leader Lauren Matsumoto, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And know that here at News Nation, you definitely have our support, and we will continue to follow this story.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. If you would like to donate to help the victims of this disaster, there's information on our website at newsnationnow.com/help. And if you're looking for a loved one in Hawaii or on the island looking for a shelter, here's the number for the Red Cross hotline, 1-800-733-2767. And new details in the case of that Utah mom accused of poisoning her husband and then writing a children's book about grief. Will she face the death penalty? And how much money is enough for you to take a new job? We'll tell you the salary most Americans are asking for, and it might surprise you. You're watching News Nation Now on News Nation, news for all America.
Tonight on Dan Abrams Live, former President Trump will be a no-show on tomorrow's debate stage. So why is the campaign sending surrogates to talk to the media? Former RNC Communications Director Sean Spicer joins Dan tonight on News Nation.
Make this the summer you started here and ended up all the way up here. The summer you gathered with a few friends and later a few hundred more. Found the perfect place to dive in and an even better way to dry off. Make this the summer of Jeep.
During the summer of Jeep, get 2.9% financing or $2,000 bonus cash plus no monthly payments for 90 days on the 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee.
Our hard-earned money is spread thin. The cost of living is up. Gas is up. Everything is expensive. CarShield, America's most trusted auto protection company, spells out what's protected in coverage plans for your vehicle. If your vehicle is out of warranty, all you have to do is call before your car breaks down. CarShield preserves your right to save on repairs or replacements for major parts and systems, while protecting your freedom to choose your mechanic or dealer for one affordable pay-as-you-go rate. A rate that will never go up. The future of this country rests on the people. The future of your car should rest with CarShield administrators. Call CarShield before it's too late.
Protect yourself from the unprecedented rise in cost for parts and repairs. Call now to save money with your price lock guarantee. Call 800-845-6855. 800-845-6855. 800-845-6855.
My oldest daughter, Camilla, she came out fighting. 2 days old, she had to have open heart surgery. All of a sudden, she's on, 5 different medications. Me and the pharmacist got so tight. She said, GoodRx can save you a lot of money. Saving that extra $200-300 a month. You do the math, the money we're able to save with using GoodRx, we're able to do all these extra activities. She can hit hard, too, for a little skinny thing. So it puts less stress on our household, and it puts less stress on our pockets.
When you find your reason to go on, let it pull you past the doubt, past the pain, and past your limits. No matter what, we go on. BioFreeze.
Let your feet take you wherever your spirit wants to go. The all-new Hurricane helps you navigate any surface so you can go anywhere your heart desires. Redesigned from top to bottom, it truly stands alone. Now you can walk easier down whatever path you choose. Move forward with confidence at Hurricane.com. Also available at Walmart and Walmart.com.
You got me.
Tag, you're it. Imagine a world with no drama. With 4imprint, you don't have to chase down the perfect promotional products. Exclusive apparel, bags, drinkware, and more. 4imprint will help you capture the moment and guarantee to deliver your order on time and on budget. Take the drama out of ordering promotional products at 4imprint.com.
4imprint, for certain.
Welcome back. I'm Nick Smith. Here are some of the stories we're following this afternoon. Palm Springs and the Coachella Valley are working to clean up following the flooding brought on by post-tropical cyclone Hillary. The desert cities received more than a half of an entire year's worth of rain in just a single day. 30 miles of Interstate 10 has been closed, making it nearly impossible to enter or leave Palm Springs. Mobile home evacuations and widespread property damage were noted. Luckily, no reports of death or serious injury have been reported. The recent drone strikes on air bases in Russia were the work of Ukrainian saboteurs. This according to Ukrainian media reports. Now, reports were not verified on the ground and Ukrainian officials had no comment. But a Ukrainian military intelligence spokesperson told one news outlet people who closely coordinated with Ukrainian military intelligence were responsible for one of the attacks that damaged at least one Russian aircraft. On Monday, a suspected Palestinian attacker killed an Israeli woman and seriously injured a man in occupied West Bank. This shooting follows another Palestinian attack, which killed an Israeli father and son who were getting their car washed in the northern part of Palestine. Elsewhere in the West Bank, an Israeli military raid left 8 Palestinians wounded, 1 in critical condition. The West Bank seeing the worst fighting in nearly 2 decades. American Airlines pilots have reached a new labor deal that includes an immediate 21% raise and increases compensated by over 46% over the entirety of the 4-year contract. Now, there are also improvements in benefits and scheduling in the new deal. Now, according to Allied Pilots Association, more than 72% of Americans' pilots voted in favor of that new contract. And here's a pretty little girl. Take a look at this. Bright's Zoo in Tennessee has a global spotlight after the birth of a solid brown giraffe back in July. The spotless giraffe is the only one of its kind on the planet. Okay, now a spotless giraffe was documented in Japan back in the 1970s, but no one has seen one since then. Wild populations are slipping into extinction by 40% in the last 3 decades. The zoo hopes this newborn will bring attention to the conservation of wild giraffes. And just so you know, there's a naming contest happening right now. So if you're interested, you should go on their Facebook page. Well, Utah prosecutors have decided not to seek the death penalty against a mom charged with her husband's murder. Now, Corey Richens is her name, and she's accused of serving her husband fentanyl-laced cocktail in the form of a Moscow Mule. She was arrested in May. Months earlier, Richens wrote a children's book about dealing with grief called Are You With Me? Now, Ms. Richens spoke directly to my next guest about the book and about her late husband before she was named as a suspect in his death. Dina Manzares and Saray Shin are here, and they're hosts of the show Good Things Utah. Ladies, thank you both for joining me.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Ladies, let's just jump into this because we all do this. I have to believe there's a part of you that's like, we did not want to be part of this story. You've unintentionally become part of this story. Let me first get your reaction to the death penalty being taken off the table because I know you've been following this.
Absolutely. I think it's one that I'm not surprised with. I think that there is so much evidence against her, and you could hear the proceedings in the courtroom, and you could tell that all of this evidence against her, they were trying to save her life. And all of these testimonies about what she's done and some of her history. So I think it wasn't a surprise when I heard prosecutors were not seeking the death penalty.
Soraya, even in that, because you were following this, let me ask you a quick follow-up. It just came to me. When you heard her story, you had a chance to hear everything presented at trial. Did it garner a bit of sympathy for her after having met with her, spoke with her? Did you see things differently?
It's interesting. I think that the opinion on it is always evolving as we learn more and we see more. But I will say that the Corey that sat down with us and what I took away from our interaction is very different than the Corey that shows up in court. We always think about this in terms of we're moms. She's a mom. She's got 3 small kids. We have small children too. And so you were right when you started out with saying, did you want to be a part of this conversation? We always think about it. Her kids will see this one day, but with them not seeking the death penalty as well, I wanted to chime in with, you know, they're already without their dad. And in some way, this does make sense so that they're not without both parents ultimately too.
Dina, Soraya, I want to listen to a part of your interview with Corey Richens. Let's take a listen.
So my husband passed away unexpectedly last year. So it's March 4th was a 1-year anniversary for us, and he was 39. It completely took us all by shock. And we have 3 little boys, 10, 9, and 6.
You know, when you listen to that now, Soraya, Dina, I have to ask, did you feel duped? Your interaction with her, did it feel off to you in any way? I think when we do this, we can kind of get a sense from a person, but sometimes people are really into it. You have no reason to suspect that this mom writing a children's book dealing with grief wasn't anything but genuine. Did it set off any alarm bells?
Absolutely. I think it's just astounding when you see and you do feel a bit duped when you hear the details. I mean, she knew that her home was searched. There was a search warrant. She was a prime suspect in the murder of her husband. And then you hear the proceedings in court of the details, multiple attempts to kill her husband with Moscow mules. And then knowing that the court documents all point to financial gain. Again, those details just make me a bit disgusted.
And you do see the interview now and you go, okay, she wasn't emotional. And at the time I chalked that up to, well, her husband has only been gone for about a year. She might still be numb. Maybe this is how she's grieving. I can't judge how somebody else is grieving. But the interesting thing now, looking back on it, knowing you were a suspect, knowing you had been investigated for a year, even if you didn't do it, wouldn't you be hiding out and laying low? You wouldn't be putting yourself in the public eye and coming on a local TV show.
Dina, how much do you think, and again, Soraya, please jump in here as well. I'm just throwing these questions out there because they come to mind when I sit here and talk to you. How much do you think this was all part of her strategy to help maybe paint a different picture and throw things off?
I mean, for sure. Because I even asked her, I said, how were you able to process in a year's time your husband, your loving husband that you paint in this picture book on grief dedicated to your husband and the father of your children? How have you been able to process all of this in a year, research how to write a book? Then you say that you wrote the book with your 3 young children. And throughout this book, you have an angel figure of their dad throughout the storyline. And yes, I don't think if I were in her position as a single mom of 3 young boys, I would be able to process all of that and to grieve at the same time and take care of 3 young children.
Soraya, Dina, I have to wrap, but I want to ask you one last question before I let you go. Would you all be interested in speaking with her again?
Absolutely.
We say that all the time. I would love to know, we would love to know, did you do it? And do you regret now? If you did it, do you regret it?
And why? Why did you come on? Why did you approach us? Why did you write this book? And want to make money off of it?
And
Amazon
use you two as a foil.
And use us. Yeah. Absolutely.
Dina Manzanares and Soraya Shin, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We will follow up with you ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, joining me now is National Trial Attorney Dante Mills. Dante, you and I have spoken before on different trials throughout the year. What's your reaction to prosecutors not seeking the death penalty in this case?
I think it's something that everybody has to understand. The prosecutor's job is to be there on behalf of the victims. And sometimes they have conversations with the victims or their families when there's a deceased victim to get their input. From what I'm hearing, it's clear here that they had conversations and communication with the family of her husband, and they decided that they did not want to move forward with a death penalty charge. And I've been in situations, a lot of situations, where I've had conversations with the prosecutors on behalf of the family saying, this is what we believe justice looks like. And some families believe if there's a death penalty, she gets to move on or transition, and they would rather her sit in prison for the remainder of her life. So I think that went into it a lot. There was a lot of evidence here about premeditation. She took out a loan in his name before he passed. There were things that she did leading up to his death to make it clear that this was premeditated murder if she's found guilty for it. But I think the prosecution weighed the family's wishes against that premeditation and said, we're simply going to move forward with the first-degree murder charge that could end her in prison for life.
And Dante, because this is your wheelhouse with working in and being in courtrooms as a litigator, how tough is it for her attorneys to defend her with so much public attention?
It's going to be very tough because there's a lot of evidence that suggests that this was her intent. She took steps to allegedly poison him before this, and she carried through with it allegedly if she's found guilty for it. So I don't see a lot of, I've been looking at this case, I don't see a lot of defenses here. So they may be looking for some kind of relaxed or reduced sentence. I wouldn't be surprised if ultimately she pleads guilty in this case and tries to get the best sentence possible.
Dante Mills, once again, thank you so much for giving us that insight and analysis. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
A look at what a majority of Americans are demanding in order to take a new job. That's coming up. And up and away, why experts are saying the idea of a starter home is no longer attainable. We'll have that and more when we come back after the break.
Living with metastatic breast cancer means I cherish my memories. But I don't just look back on them. I look forward to the chance to make new ones every day with Verzenio.
Verzenio is proven to help you live significantly longer when taken with fulvestrant. Verzenio plus fulvestrant is for HR-positive, HER2-negative metastatic breast cancer that has progressed after hormone therapy. Diarrhea is common, may be severe, or cause dehydration or infection. At the first sign, call your doctor, start an antidiarrheal, and drink fluids. Before taking Verzenio, tell your doctor about any fever, chills, or other signs of infection. Verzenio may cause low white blood cell counts, which may cause serious infection that can lead to death. Life-threatening lung inflammation can occur. Tell your doctor about any new or worsening trouble breathing, cough, or chest pain. Serious liver problems can happen. Symptoms include fatigue, appetite loss, stomach pain, and bleeding or bruising. Blood clots that can lead to death have occurred. Tell your doctor if you have pain or swelling in your arms or legs, shortness of breath, chest pain, and rapid breathing or heart rate, or if you are nursing, pregnant, or plan to be.
I'm making future memories every day with Verzenio.
Ask your doctor about everyday Verzenio.
Subway is now slicing their deli meats fresh. That's why the new Titan Turkey is preferred by this football pro.
And preferred by this football pro who actually uses her feet.
And if we prefer it, we know you'll prefer it too. I use my feet. Have you seen me scramble?
I'm Jonathan Lawson, here to tell you about life insurance through the Colonial Penn program. If you're age 50 to 85 and looking to buy life insurance on a fixed budget, remember the 3 Ps.
The 3 what?
The 3 Ps.
What are the 3 Ps?
The 3 Ps of life insurance on a fixed budget are price, price, and price. A price you can afford, a price that can't increase, and a price that fits your budget.
I'm 54 and was a smoker, but quit. What's my price?
You can get coverage for $9.95 a month.
I'm 65, retired, and take medications. What's my price?
Also $9.95 a month.
I just turned 80 and I'm on a fixed income. What's my price?
$9.95 a month for you too. If you're age 50 to 85, call now about the #1 most popular whole life insurance plan available through the Colonial Penn program. It has an affordable rate starting at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. You cannot be turned down because of your health. No medical exam, no health questions. Your acceptance is guaranteed. And this plan has a guaranteed lifetime rate lock, so your rate can never go up for any reason. Options start at $9.95 a month. Plus, you get a 30-day money-back guarantee. So call now for free information, and you'll also get this free beneficiary planner. Use this valuable guide to record your important information and give helpful direction to your loved ones with your final wishes. And it's yours free, just for calling. So call now for free information.
Call 1-800-341-4500 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-341-4500. 1-800-341-4500. That's 1-800-341-4500. So call now.
Meet 3 students, all learning to save and spend their money with Chase. Freedom for kids? Thank you, Chef. Control for parents? Nice. One bank for both. Chase. Make more of what's yours.
Tonight on Dan Abrams Live, former President Trump will be a no-show on tomorrow's debate stage. So why is the campaign sending surrogates to talk to the media? Former RNC Communications Director Sean Spicer joins Dan tonight on News Nation.
Well, the amount of money workers are demanding during new job negotiations reached a record high this year. Nearly $79,000. That's the new average. Yeah. Reservation wage, or the minimum acceptable salary offered to switch jobs. This, according to the New York Federal Reserve. That's up about 8% from just a year ago, and it's the highest reservation wage ever recorded. For perspective, the average teacher makes nearly $57,000 a year. The average cop makes about $62,000. And according to this survey, they're all starting to ask for more money than they used to. Joining me now is business and financial journalist Kristen Myers. Kristen, this is not a surprise to anyone who has watched the rise of inflation, but it sounds to me that those who are seeking new jobs are definitely feeling bolder about asking for what they want. And could it turn into a vicious cycle where higher wages then drive even more inflation?
You know what? And honestly, good for all of those workers that are actually going out there and really starting to demand that some of their employers pay them a little bit more. But I think that's a really good question that you're asking about these higher wages that we have been seeing. You know, as you're mentioning that reservation wage touching almost 80,000, we actually have seen employers really starting to pay those workers a little bit more. We got that inflation report just a couple of weeks ago, and wages just last month actually ticked up 0.2%, and they're over 2% higher than they were last year. So we are still seeing employees right now somewhat in the driver's seat, making some of these demands, knowing that employers want workers and that they're going to essentially shell out some of those bucks really to get some of those workers. But as you're mentioning, the more income that people have, the more they're going to go out and spend. And the American consumer has been spending. And just as you're asking, will that keep inflation elevated? It absolutely will. And this is something that the Federal Reserve does not want to see right now, which is why they keep hitting us with higher and higher interest rates, really to try to slow that demand and really try to make sure that Americans stop spending so much on everything.
Kristen, it is crazy that we all know we do better when, unfortunately, everyone isn't doing as well. And that's a ridiculous way to think. Are employers keeping up with these wage demands, or are we seeing a gap between what employees want and what they're being offered?
I think there's always going to be a gap, right, between what employees actually want and what employees are willing to either offer or actually give. I think we all have anecdotal evidence of our friends or even perhaps ourselves. We go out and we try to ask for raises, and our employers don't necessarily give us every little thing that we want. But again, we are absolutely seeing wages continue to tick upward, and they have been over the last 2 years. Now, we've had a really, really tight labor market. We have seen that labor market cool just a little bit. We have seen those job openings definitely decrease, but there still are jobs right now for people that want them. And there's still a lot of employers out there saying, listen, I cannot find enough workers to keep up with all of the demands that the American consumer is making right now. And so we are still seeing American employers really start to cave to some of those wage demands and start to give some of those employees a little bit more money. And the fact that that reservation wage, again, that wage that's kind of required to get any one person to go get a new job, the fact that it's hit this record high, I mean, we've only been keeping that data for about a decade now, a little over a decade, but the fact that it's hit that highest level, I think really shows and really is evidence that those employers are absolutely willing to pay a little bit more.
Kristen, don't get upset with me, but I want to ask you about another touchy subject around finances, and that's the housing market. Experts are warning there's no such thing as a starter home anymore. Oh, I'll just get a simple starter home, and in a few years, you know, my wife and I, my partner and I, whatever, we'll buy a new home that's 3 bedrooms. They're saying that's not the case anymore. The average price for an entry-level home has soared to a record $243,000. What does that even mean for first-time home buyers?
It is painful out there. If you are out there and you're looking and you're watching this program right now, I unfortunately have nothing but bad news for you. If you're hoping that I'm going to tell you that those mortgage rates are going to go from just over 7% where they are right now to perhaps 3% where we saw them in 2021, it's not going to happen. And if you think that those home prices are going to drop from that nearly $250,000 median asking price, but again, it's a lot higher in a lot of other housing markets. If you think you're going to see a housing market crash, it is not going to happen. Unfortunately, with mortgage rates so high right now, anyone that has a home and that has a low mortgage rate, so anything under 7% at this rate, you're going to hold on to that house. You're not going to go and buy a new house. Well, what does that mean if you're trying to buy a house? It means there's not a lot of houses out there that is going to be available for you. That's going to keep those housing prices high. And again, with the Federal Reserve continuing to give us these interest rate hikes, the mortgage rate is going to stay elevated. And right now, experts are predicting it's going to stay elevated into next year. So unfortunately, just bad news all around. There's no such thing as a starter home anymore. You're really going to have to get together a whole lot of cash if you're going to want to play in the housing market right now.
Kristen Myers with the news we didn't want to hear, but we needed to hear. Kristen Myers, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Well, the coolest summer job ever. We'll speak to one young woman who says her unique position beats all the others, and we'll show you why. You're watching News Nation Now.
I have moderate to severe Crohn's disease. Now there's Skyrizi.
Things are looking up. I've got symptom relief. Control of my Crohn's means everything to me. Control is everything to me.
Feel significant symptom relief with Skyrizi, including less abdominal pain and fewer bowel movements at 4 weeks. Skyrizi is the first and only IL-23 inhibitor for Crohn's that can deliver both clinical remission and endoscopic improvement. The majority of people on Skyrizi achieve long-lasting remission at 1 year.
Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, had a vaccine, or plan to. Liver problems may occur in Crohn's disease.
Ask your gastroenterologist how you can take control of your Crohn's with Skyrizi.
Control is everything to me.
Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
Here's a question. Can you afford a big repair on your car right now? That could cost you thousands. But if you call CarShield before your car breaks down, your bill could be paid for. When you get a plan through CarShield, up to 5,000 parts and systems of your vehicle are covered. CarShield administrators talk directly to the mechanic or dealer of your choice, and they get expensive repair bills paid. Big repairs, like your engine, transmission, AC, and more. To help you keep even more money in your wallet, plans through CarShield even offer 24/7 roadside assistance at no extra cost. That includes courtesy towing, lockouts, and help with flat or damaged tires.
In 1 year, I saved $2,500. I am a walking commercial for CarShield.
Don't risk going into debt over car repairs. Instead, bank on this. CarShield can help you save money, but you have to call before your car breaks down.
Call 800-910-8615. 800-910-8615. 800-910-8615.
At SimpliSafe, we designed the #1 rated home security system powered by 24/7 professional monitoring for half the cost of traditional home security. So you stay safe for less than $1 a day. There's no safe like SimpliSafe.
After 50, sore joints, it can slow us down. I'm not ready for that. I found a secret to turn back the clock on my stiff, achy joints by years without products that just temporarily hide my symptoms and may have scary side effects. My secret? Instaflex Advanced.
Get a complimentary sample just by texting BUS to 321-321.
Instaflex Advanced targets the root cause of joint soreness and stiffness with a unique combination of 5 key natural ingredients found nowhere else. Key ingredients backed by 5 clinical studies. Instaflex Advanced is so powerful, I had better knees in just 1 week. You gotta try it.
Instaflex Advanced is the #1 selling joint brand at GNC, but you can only get your complimentary sample by texting BUS to 321-321. Plus, text now and we'll include a tube of Instaflex pain cream for fast-acting relief from the pain of arthritis, backaches, and sore muscles absolutely free. Text BUS to 321-321 today.
All right, here at News Nation, we have found the coolest summer job ever. A group of teens in Wisconsin make up the hardworking crew of mailboat jumpers aboard the Walworth 2. That's a double-decker boat on Lake Geneva. Their job sounds simple, right? Deliver people's mail. Okay, but jumping from a moving boat onto a dock, then racing back before you get left behind is not for the faint of heart or the heavy of waist. Okay, my next guest knows all about it. Marissa Torres-Raby is her 3rd summer of mail jumping. Marissa, thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, this sounds awesome. First of all, what made you want to become a mail jumper, and how does someone get into the job of mail jumping?
So my brother was actually a mail jumper before me, so I just want to do it because he did it. In order to be a mail jumper, you have to work at the Lake Geneva Cruise Line. You have to work there usually for a year before you start jumping, and then you have to try out.
Okay, Marissa, here's the simple question. I can imagine, the first one I got, the second one I got. Does anybody ever miss and not make it back on that 3rd trip? Like, okay, we'll see you tomorrow, Nick, because you didn't make it back.
So we won't leave you behind, but the boat does circle around and get you, but we are a passenger carrying boat. So there's people on there they want to hear the tour and they want to see the jumping. So people do watch you stand there as you come back.
Gotcha. But if you are one who is not going to make this trip regularly, somebody could circle that boat 4 or 5 times, like, okay, Nick, we need you to make it over this time. Are there certain houses famous for being harder than others?
Yeah, mail jumpers will we all know which houses are like the harder ones. I specifically have 2 houses that are super hard for me that I've missed a bunch of times at, or I've almost fallen in at.
Marissa, last question. What about delivering big packages? Like I'm carrying one of these jumbo TVs in time for the Super Bowl. Is it true that one of your colleagues had to jump carrying a TV?
Yeah, a flat screen TV. We couldn't fit it out the window, so we took it out the door. Last year, we took one of the umbrellas, a base for an umbrella, like a pier umbrella. It was 30 pounds, and we took that out of the window.
Marissa, quickly, you say you feel like this job has prepared you for a future in corporate America. How so?
Just because I'm a lot more confident talking to other people, because when you're giving the tour, you're giving it to a bunch of people that you do not know. It's 150 people. So it just gives me a lot of good skills of being able to communicate with other people. And I also work with a team. So we all have to work together really well to be safe and to make sure everything's going to go correctly for the day.
Well, Marissa, you are absolutely lovely to speak to. I wish you nothing but the best in your future endeavors, and keep jumping carefully, okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, monster hunters are gathering in Scottish Highlands to search for the elusive Loch Ness Monster. This weekend's search will be the largest in more than 50 years, complete with drones and infrared cameras. Now, the mysterious creature was reportedly first spotted in 1933 by an employee at a hotel along the lake. Now, over Saturday and Sunday, seasoned and beginner monster enthusiasts hope to gather undeniable evidence of Nessie's existence. Yeah, the Loch Ness Monster has a name. We appreciate you joining us today. I'm Nick Smith. This is News Nation Now. Nicole Burley is next. She's up after the break.